2009 on TSN is brought to you by the new Q Horsepower from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses. And Michelin, a better way forward.
Despite the fact that the theme at this year's Detroit Auto Show were cutbacks and the survival of the Big Three, there were some pretty cool vehicles that were unveiled. My favorite, the new Audi R8 with the V10. And at the other end of the showroom and price range, Kia, specifically the Soul. I thought this was such a cool looking vehicle and not something you'd expect from Kia. Well, this week we're in beautiful Kelowna, British Columbia to get our first chance behind the wheel of the new Soul and to find out if this car drives as well as it looks.
The Kia Soul truly is a game-changing vehicle for us. Really a car to change people's opinions about Kia.
One of our biggest challenges has been our brand image because we have fantastic vehicles, the quality is good, the safety is good, we have third-party endorsements, but we need something that's exciting, that's really going to shatter the image of what Kia traditionally was known to be.
The Kia Soul is available in a number of different trims with two specific platforms, a 1.6-liter four-cylinder engine as well as a 2-liter four-cylinder 142 horsepower. This powertrain is completely all new for us, completely new engines, very fuel efficient, very quiet, and the platform you mentioned that the Soul is based on is the Rio. However, the platform is larger and wider. The track of this vehicle is wider to have better handling.
I mean, let's be honest, when it comes to design, this Soul is not something you'd expect from Kia. However, remember, the new design chief at Kia is the same man who designed the Audi TT, Peter Schreier. He had a lot to do with the front end of this car. So the question is this new design a peek into Kia's future?
It really is. The idea is to change the way vehicles from Kia look, the way people think of how those vehicles look, and the Soul is a perfect example of the types of things we can do when we hire such a talented design individual and how design can change a viewpoint of an entire brand.
We need a vehicle that's going to drive us to a new level of brand awareness and brand equity, and we believe that the Soul is going to do that for us.
The style is nice. It's nice to look at. It looks attractive, and the colors are a little funky, which is nice for this kind of car. You got colors you don't see in every model, and the overall package is well done. The space is more than generous, and the overall quality is above what we usually see in this category.
You know, Kia's main demographic for the new Soul is the Y generation, 20 to 29. Well, friends of mine who are parents, they're telling me their Y generation is still living in the basement.
From our point of view, we have to market to a large mass of buying people. And this car really covers both spectrums very well. So we feel this vehicle does cover that youth market very well and that sort of next mass market in the 40-plus age range who might be looking for something slightly different than the regular vehicles out there on the road.
Of course, the base model with the 1.6 won't be a high volume. It's more like a price point car where they can advertise at $15,995. But even the highest grade model is still $29,995. So for $21,000, you got a full equipped model, which I think is a price that people can afford, and you don't feel like you're making any sacrifices behind the wheel. That's the beauty of this car.
You know, most car companies differentiate their model lines with either number signs or letters, CL, SL, and so on. It does get kind of confusing. Well, with the new Kia Soul, they have two model lines. One is the 2U, and the second one is the 4U. So does that mean the 4U is all-wheel drive?
It is a front-wheel drive vehicle. Currently, Kia only makes front-wheel drive passenger cars and all-wheel drive and 4x4 SUVs. At the moment, we do not have an all-wheel drive vehicle in our lineup, but it is a possibility, but I can't make a confirmation that that will be available on the Soul anytime soon.
It's not overwhelmingly powerful, but it's not the point. The point is to have something practical, fun, well done, and for all of that, I think they've hit a home run.
stop the insanity and start taking traffic advice from Woody Allen. More later on Kenzie's Corner.
With the hulking SUV falling out of favour faster than your favourite politician, there's a new breed hitting the highway. On this edition of Test Drive, the Toyota Venza.
The Venza takes Toyota to a place it's never been before. It boasts a degree of style for which the company is not normally noted. From the grille to the tailgate, the Venza has road presence. The reaction to its distinct form surprised me. I half expected a somewhat tepid response. Most onlookers nodded in approval. Spend some time behind the wheel and it doesn't take long to learn that the Venza's beauty is more than skin deep.
Unlike an SUV, you don't climb into the Venza, you simply slide behind the wheel, so it's much easier to get in and out of. The second thing that really does impress, the elegant simplicity of the layout. All of the controls are exactly where they should be, and they're all large enough to be operated with a gloved hand. Now, if you go with the touring package, which I do suggest, along with the leather and a number of other things, this trip computer that sits right up here, when you select reverse, it becomes a backup camera and shows you what's going on behind. It really does work very well given the sight lines.
The Venza's sheer size says it should be somewhat of a barge in terms of its handling. After a couple of runs through the pylons, it became only too apparent that the Venza's looks are deceiving. When pressed with enthusiasm, there's little body roll and understeer is a long way out. The tester's oversized 245/50 R20 tyres delivering copious amounts of grip. The latter also explains the dialed-in feel afforded by the electrically assisted steering. Most electric systems feel dull and lifeless. The Venza's, well, it's alive and predictable.
The back seat of this Venza has been equally well thought through as the front seats. Now, to begin with, there's a ton of head and leg room, and you also get enough width that you can realistically seat 3 people back here. The one thing I do like, and again it boils down to that touring package I do suggest, this panoramic sunroof. It really does open the cabin up, and it makes an already spacious vehicle feel so much larger.
The driving experience is the Venza's other forte. The 2.7-litre 4-cylinder engine is good, the V6 engine is a sweetheart. Not only does it put 268 horsepower and 246 pound-feet of torque at the driver's disposal, it does so in a quiet and unflustered manner. Much of the credit for its easygoing demeanour is down to the 6-speed Manumatic. It delivers the right gearing across the board. The low first gear accentuates the launch, the tall top gear brings quiet cruising. My beef with the transmission is that whenever the driver slides the shifter over into the sport position, the box drops into 4th gear, which is not always the right cog. Leave it where it is and let me decide when to shift.
If you want utility, the Venza has got a ton of it. It's also got a lot of cargo space, with the seats in the upright position about 31 cubic feet. And if you fold them flat, which is as simple as that, you open up 70 cubic feet. The lone shortcoming, this tailgate glass should open independently. It doesn't, and that's an oversight.
The final part of the driving experience is the Venza's available all-wheel drive system. Its proactive nature means it's quick to reapportion the power whenever unwanted wheel spin surfaces. Under normal circumstances, it drives the front wheels until something untoward happens. Layering this ability with a top-notch electronic stability and traction control system takes things to a higher level. It really does take a lot to get the Venza to come unglued.
It would be only too easy to dismiss this Venza as being little more than a Camry wagon. It is so much more than that. To begin with, very nice interior and all the utility you could possibly ask for. Factor in the car-like ride and handling, decent power and a very good all-wheel drive system, and you have a seriously good package. So good, in fact, that if I were Toyota, well, I'd be a little concerned about the Highlander.
There's nothing more fun than driving a convertible. I mean, I love driving convertibles, and a hardtop convertible makes sense for the Canadian market because it's an all-weather car. You can drive it basically all year round if you choose to, because you're not sort of suffering from the issues of cold and kind of miserable weather, and it's just as good as a coupe in that sense. So we think a convertible is a smart thing to add to the lineup. It also talks to inspired performance. I mean, it's a very enjoyable experience, and building a convertible on the G platform gives us a really solid foundation to make a car that's fun to drive.
I think the big downside is this is a convertible hardtop, and this is what the market is going to in this segment, and that's a big roof to store someplace, and it's going in your trunk. And when it's there, you've got no trunk. That's basically the downside of this type of car.
At the end of the test drive of this Mazda 3, I came away very impressed. In fact, there was only one lingering question. Would it stand up as well under a prolonged examination? We intend to find out because this vehicle has joined our long-term test fleet. Now, as well as looking at it from an owner's perspective over the next several months, we're also going to take an in-depth look. Is a 5-speed automatic transmission worth the money, and does it impact the bottom line?
Make sure you check out the Motoring website at motoringtv.com. You can watch any program you may have missed. In fact, how about a trip down memory lane and see what we were driving as far back as 1988. Check out our blog, our photo gallery, and much more. It's all there at motoringtv.com.
The Porsche World Roadshow is an international driving event designed to give potential customers the opportunity to drive our entire range of Porsche models for one day in a variety of challenging situations that demonstrate their on- and off-road capabilities.
One of the things that the instructors here talk about is infecting people with the Porsche passion. And whether it's a prospective customer, whether it's a member of the media, whoever, to do an event like this, I think you walk away from it going, wow, I really need to have one of these cars.
Kia has made a real effort to make this new Soul cool. Cool design on the outside and a cool interior. But what about the engine? The engine, you say? Well, many manufacturers today are covering the engine compartment with a plastic cover to make it look cool. So let's check out the engine here on the Soul. No cover. But then again, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, let's ask a man that has seen more engines than anybody I know, and that's our man in the Quaker State Garage, Bill Gardner.
Well, Brad, it's not a big deal either way, and I think they do have their place. I certainly don't have a problem with them in terms of working on vehicles. And when you look at a vehicle like this Audi Q7 we've got here today, this the price that's tested on this vehicle is $78,000. So when you drive home with that brand new $78,000 vehicle and you want to show it to your neighbors or your buddies at work, you go into the engine bay, you can see that you've got a 3-liter V6 with TDI, turbo direct injection. Looks pretty neat, but if you went underneath that cover, and they do come off very easily, that's literally all that's required to get that cover off. I think that the look of that machinery underneath there might be a little bit intimidating to the average consumer, the average motorist. Most of them are not going to know what they're looking at, have a clue what they would do to fix it if they had a problem, and they might actually think that it's maybe a little bit too busy looking. It just doesn't look finished off. So when this cover goes on, it looks really nicely finished off. So it's mainly aesthetic, but as you can see underneath, it's got lots of sound deadener underneath it too. So it's just another level of sound deadening, similar to the sound deadener under the hood, and the weather stripping around the hood of this vehicle keeps it nice and quiet in the interior. So it's got a couple of functions, and since it doesn't weigh a whole lot and it comes off so easily, I'm quite okay with it. Now, over here we've got an 02 Hyundai Elantra, belongs to one of our camera guys, and I've worked on this car pretty extensively over its 240,000 plus K. And well, you can see what I kind of use these engine covers for, and that's my own personal graffiti to sort of keep track of things. Now I've got the oil fill amount written over here and the fact that it's 2-liter displacement, because they often want to know the engine displacement when you're ordering parts. I guess there's 2 engine sizes that could have been in this particular make and model of car in this model year. So I kind of write on them, and by the time that vehicle's got a couple 100,000 miles, it's got a lot of my graffiti on it. You know, we don't always have that paper trail or a computer screen to go to look up what servicing was done. In most cases, you're rummaging through the glove box looking at a rat's nest of invoices and you can't figure it out. So the easiest thing for me, just write on it. But you know what? If the customer brought the $78,000 Audi in, I think if he just cut that check, I don't think he'd want me writing on that cover, at least not until it's a few years old. So I'd probably have to find another way to track what I did on that vehicle. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 2009.
This is the second generation Z4 Roadster, but before that we had a Z3, which was a very popular car in all of North America. This Z4 has grown up a little bit. It's a little bit longer, a little bit wider, about the same height, much more performance. It has either a 3-liter inline 6 that's 280 horsepower or a twin turbo inline 6 of 300 horsepower.
I took the history of BMW Roadsters, of course, and I tried to integrate in the new Z4 the Roadster proportions, what we have at BMW, the typical long hood, the driver is close to the rear axle, and all the emotion which are in the cars of the past.
This is the first Roadster with a folding hardtop. Until now, we've had soft tops, and the reason for that was very, very easy. We wanted to have these flowing lines of a Roadster, the low back end of the Roadster, the long hood. And in order to fit a roof package into the trunk and still have some luggage space, really you needed a soft top. With this new top system we have that's very, very compact, we're able to fit a beautiful hardtop roof into the trunk and still have some room for luggage and still have the beautiful lines.
Yeah, we do have a lot of requirements with all the components that have to fit in there and the safety requirements. At the same time, in the beginning of the project, I usually try to go a step back and just develop an overall concept and then fill this concept with all the components that have to fit into it so that it actually has a very complete feel and a very fluent feel on the interior, because that creates the comfort for the driver and passenger.
Well, Roadster market grows and shrinks depending on how interesting and how emotional the products are in that segment. We have been the leader in the Roadster segment, at least in the US, I'm not sure about Canada, and the Z4 was that leader. We hope that this one will be too. It's kind of a breath of fresh air in dismal times.
Closed captioning on Motoring 2009 is brought to you by the 2009 Chevrolet Traverse Crossover. It's everything you've ever wished for, and then some.
In the movie Annie Hall, Woody Allen said that California's only contribution to culture was the ability to turn right on a red light, because in those days in New York City, you couldn't. Well, you know, Woody, you got it right. And the province of Quebec finally got it right a couple of years ago when they passed a law making it allowable to turn right on a red light. Now, they also said that individual municipalities could pass their own laws, and the city of Montreal, among others, did. So in Montreal, you still can't turn right on a red light. Now, I drove through Montreal just a couple of days ago. It's a nightmare. What are they thinking? It's insane. And you want to know what's even more insane? The mayor of the city of Toronto, David Miller, is proposing that Toronto ban right turns on red lights. Is he out of his freaking mind? I mean, you're sitting there at a red light at 2 o'clock in the morning. There's not a pedestrian for 1,000 miles. You got to sit there idling, polluting the atmosphere. You can't turn right because you just know there'll be a cop sitting there ready to run you for this stupid thing. And when there is pedestrian traffic, what happens? Well, you're stopped at the red light, and so are the pedestrians. Everybody's waiting for the green. As soon as the light goes green, they swarm across the intersection. You're in a hurry because you've been sitting there for 20 minutes. You turn right and you bowl them over like bowling pins. What are they thinking? Now, I know David Miller, as the mayor of the City of Toronto, biggest city in Canada, he hates cars. We know that. But Mr. Miller, there isn't a streetcar running to everybody's house, okay? The mass transit system in the City of Toronto, like everywhere in the country, is the automobile. Deal with it. And for crying out loud, don't make it more difficult for drivers to get where they want to go. It's unsafe, it causes more pollution, and don't forget, drivers vote. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Remember when we complained about the high price of gas? Well, one of the benefits was that automakers realized there was indeed a market for small cars, but like in Europe, they had to have some panache, some really cool styling. Well, that in a nutshell describes the new Kia Soul. You know, off the top of the program, we wondered if this car would drive as good as it looks. The answer to that is yes. And as I've said many times before, if you're going to test drive a new car, do it at nighttime. That interior lighting gives the car a whole new personality. And I'm telling you, it gives the Kia some real soul. I mean, check out these speakers that actually light up. Now, you know, Graham will be getting a much closer look at this vehicle on a future program. But you know, Kia's slogan is the power to surprise. Well, I'm here to tell you that's exactly what they have done, and that's not a bad thing. That's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
I'm all the way back. Headroom, head adjustment, view. What's real great, you have a large viewing window. That gives a lot of glamour, that gives a lot of safety also. And, you know, Scion has the truck and it's a great seller. I see a lot of it on the road. Kia is now making one and it has the same exact shape, you know, but when I saw this car, it really got my eye because the cut was more defined to it and it gave a more elegant cut to it. So I really, really love it. I want to get it, but it's not out yet, but I may be the first buyer, so.
Motoring 2009 on TSN has been brought to you by the new Q Horsepower from Quaker State. Unleash all your horses. And Michelin, a better way forward.